Ciao. Elemental is a story about elements living in a city together and falling in love. But is it really a kids' movie? Mortality. How many people die in this city? In a regular city, people die from accidents all the time. Assaults and murder happen, and we don't have superpowers that are made to fight each other. Between 1984 and 1987, people bit other people almost 1,600 times per year in New York City. In 2025, there was 111 pedestrian fatalities from car accidents in New York City. There's no way hundreds of fire people don't die each year from the trains. Racism. Fire people are probably hated because they kill other people regularly by losing their temper. Back to the 1,600 people that are bit in New York City every year, imagine that bite lit you on fire as well. We see Ember light up one of the Earth people. If she was actually angry, she could have turned him into glass. My guess is a lot more fire people end up being hot-headed and losing their cool. Maybe even water people boil over a little bit. I have no puns for the other two. But we also see subtle racism. What about overt racism? There was 437 hate crimes committed on another person in New York City in 2021. I can't imagine there's not a water power group in Elemental City. A proud buoys, if you will. I also can't imagine they'd feel too happy about steamers or anyone who messes with the pH balance of their neighborhood, let alone a new city being made of glass by most likely fire people, as they would be the most adept in glass manipulation. Anger. Ember is a jerk. I get she's supposed to be hot-headed, and I'm glad they have the lady with a temper, but she feels too over the top. And she seems fast and good at the glass. How can't that just be a side hustle? The fact Ember hasn't gotten control of her temper several years later from the initial explosion kind of proves my idea though. I work in customer service. I work at a family business where my boss is my dad. You can't explode on everyone that comes through or you lose face. You have your family's reputation to uphold, and if you have employees, they also rely on you for a paycheck. Ember's a jerk. Her not netting up for the red dot sale is a dick move. Also, water can kill fire. Is her getting hit in the head with water like getting shot in the head? This movie does help explain anger well to kids. The "when I'm angry, it's just my brain telling me something I wasn't ready to hear" is a really good line. If you are a person who loses control a lot, I want you to think about where the roots of your anger come from. Sometimes you'll find you're projecting fear, humility, or sadness with anger as the microphone. You don't always have to live up to the standards of those you hold in a high position. Just live up to your own standards. I know that kind of contradicts what I said earlier about being responsible when you're holding something bigger than yourself, but it also relates back to the other theme of the movie, finding who you want to be. Villains. This movie also doesn't feel like a kid's movie because the bad guys are bad city planning and childhood anxiety and fears manifesting as unchecked anger in an out-of-control adult. If it was a movie about a kid with anger issues, that's one thing. Ember's been ablaze for her entire adulthood. If she was 16 when the first explosion happened, then several years later, she'd be in her early 20s, maybe even mid-20s. That's not a good look, being that age and having anger issues, while also trying to take on huge responsibilities. You gotta show that you can be trusted. I'm glad she realizes this through the movie. She does have a really good character development. The city should have forgiven the tickets. The upper management shouldn't have put it on an inspector to get the water fix coordinated. That's bad management. That chick had her head in the clouds though. The infrastructure failing being the villain in this movie also makes it not feel like a kid's movie. Obviously the glass breaking represents Ember's heartbreaking or something like that, but it's fucking ass. It doesn't matter for most of the movie, and it's not like the city wouldn't have fixed that officially if they knew it was going to destroy a major train line. The ramifications of this would have led to dozens, if not hundreds of deaths, but I'm guessing the mortality rate in the city is already pretty high. That's not how pipes work. The water shouldn't go from a runoff channel directly into home water feeds. I know it runs through a filtration system, but that's not how a city's water works. Also, if it was water runoff, it wouldn't build that amount of pressure. The flash flood climax really doesn't feel earned. Ember should have just grabbed the lantern and they should have left with it. I like how they make you think Wade died. Again, it comes back to fire people probably kill a lot of other people. Love stories. I'm not going to cover too much of this just because I do plan on doing a video later about how I don't think love stories should be in kids' movies really at all or too much or whatever. The pruning scene is weird. Also a weird callback later. He straight up asks Ember to fuck.
Pixar, what are you thinking?
My biggest problem with this movie is it was marketed as a love story, which it is. And I feel like that's just weird to market to kids. I don't know what age range they were specifically going for, but my daughter was like 5 when this came out, and I was not having a good time with her falling in love with a new boy every week. The touch scene is crazy and weird, but good. I'm not going to go too deep into it because again, I feel like kids' movies being heavily marketed and played on as love stories is weird. If they were just open about it and like, hey, this movie is young adult, that would have been way better. It's a great scene, but does their steam become a cloud? Do they make a cloud of steam if they have a kid? I know I bring this up too much when there's different species making whoopee, but it is a fair question. Wade using the water to light the candles is great, very smart, and something I missed the first few times I watched the movie. Wade is great. I wanted to talk shit because he's annoying, but he's also real as shit. He's open to being vulnerable because he knows who he is, where he stands, and as much as he acts confused and aloof, he's the only one who has a clue in this movie. He is a total douche for crashing the party though. The kiss is earned, and I think this is such a great romance movie, just not a kid's movie. And yeah, I know the little Claude guy is fucking weird. Side notes. Director. So the guy that did this also did The Good Dinosaur, which we know how I feel about that. But that wasn't really his fault. Whose fault was it, you may ask? No one can really say, but I do know he was not the original director, and he had to salvage what was left in that movie. Seeing the emotional connections in this movie, I can tell Socks has his shit on point. My mom and I are Wade and his mom. I love my mom so much, and Catherine O'Hara has always reminded me of my mom. After Catherine's passing, I had a long cry, and I gave my mom a big hug. I have a similar idea for a story to the through line that Ember is the dream. I wanted to write a book based on a Nordic poem. I wanted to Disneyify it, make it a story about a daughter protecting her dad's treasure only to have it stolen, so she runs away in fear. And then when she reunites with her dad tells her that she is the true treasure. I played a game similar to the crying game. My version was you had to put on a short video that would make the other person cry. Also, the line Wade uses to make Amber cry is weird. It's a weird-ass kids movie, especially because then that's broken up by, oh, it's tempered glass, relating back to one of the main villains, which is poor city planning. Watering things down is putting ketchup on it. The whole system should work like rock, paper, scissors. Fire people need bush people for food. Bush people need water people for food. Technically, water people would need cloud and fire people for food, and cloud people would kinda need fire people and water people for food. It doesn't make any sense. Reincarnation. Wade gets brought back to life. But is reincarnation a thing? Could an earth person become a fire person if they were lit on fire? Could a water person become a cloud if they evaporated? I get they are supposed to be wind, but that's fucking dumb. They are clouds. Wind doesn't control lightning or rain. That's clouds. Conclusion. This movie is a love movie, yes, but it's also an immigrant story, a family drama, a story about failing infrastructure, and racism. The city was started by water people, so it's very water-centric. I get some of these are supposed to be analogs for different races, but when all of the elemental people basically have superpowers and super weaknesses to each other, it creates a lot of issues. The fact that the city didn't thoroughly reroute the trains around Firetown is fucked up, or figured out a less wet mode of transit. Obviously, these are supposed to be metaphors for how it's easier for persons of different races to access a city's amenities. But it creates a lot of issues in the mortality rate of that city. I can also see the cultural story here, but it's also a story of emotional damage. The dad gets hurt because his father didn't give his blessing as they left. I'm sure that's what influenced what he ended up doing with his life. Selling fire stuff and being the beacon of his homeland in a big city. As far as I can tell, Bernie is the one who started Firetown. The city should recognize his impact. They actually should have taken care of his problem. Again, that's why the villains suck. It's failed bureaucracy and not being able to deal with your emotions until they deal with you. And that part is a good idea for a kids movie, but it's not relatable for kids if it's all about adult stuff, like pruning.
Pixar, what the fuck?